Two script guys. Take one. What can novelists take from screenwriting? I work with a lot of novelists who want to transition into being screenwriters. But there are certain characteristics of screenwriting that novelists should consider when they're trying to work into this transition. Or they might even consider these things for their own novel. The first one I want to talk about is plot and character. Plot and character, or characterization, are not enemies. Most of the novelists I've encountered eschew plot and focus on world building and characterization. For novelists, it would appear that writing is not a matter of character versus plot, but rather how character creates plot. For a screenwriter, plot and character, or characterization, are intermingled things. These writing paths share energy and purpose. In a movie, a character behaves the way they behave, and their behavior contributes and supports the plot. You learn about the character through what they decide to do because of conflict, and that interacts with the actions of the plot. So what does this have to do with novels? While world building is important to the novelist should consider taking from scripts the value of the story energy for intermingling character and plot. I'm not trying to say that all novelists don't do that. I'm saying that novelists should consider the story energy that derives from characterization and plot. What's a second characteristic? Your novel deals with story elements that do not contribute to the overall story. In other words, your novels are too long when it comes to translating them over to being screenplays. A screenplay is a structured written device that stays below 120 pages, usually a lot below 120 pages, usually in the 105 to 110 page range. Well, novels? Novels are any length. A lot of books that I read, I see setting descriptions, read world building going on forever and not contributing to a greater understanding of the characters or the story. World building is all great, but movies call that exposition. And the purpose of any exposition is to drive the story forward. For screenplays, a story without conflict is not a story. Exposition without purpose is a distraction. Perhaps that truism from screenwriting is a thing that novelists can take from screenwriters. So a third characteristic. A story can be built in scenes. To start, some novelists outline. Some novelists start with word one and write until they get to the end. Both concepts work with novelists. Not all, but most screenwriters write their screenplay scene by scene and not always in order. They use the central theme of the story as a controlling idea, and they let the story hang on that. Each scene is 3 to 5 pages. What does a novelist can take is that organizing your story around the development of a central theme or idea, tying the main character and other characters to that idea, can help drive storytelling. I also want to say that that can work for novelists, but if you're transitioning from being a novelist to being a screenplay, that again is a characteristic that you need to be aware of. Here's another characteristic that's very important. In a screenplay, conflict and tension drive a story forward. Every scene must count. Every action by a character must add to the story. Tension and conflict move a story forward. A scene without tension, either stated, which is on the nose, or subtle, is not usable. And there are reasons for having on-the-nose scenes. Just don't do it in every scene. Scenes without tension or conflict have to go or be rewritten. Conversation is not conflict. Everything in a script is a setup to a later payoff. The characters want something, anything, and the courses of action they choose that take them away from or nearer to that desire. Either way, the issue will get resolved by the end of a screenplay. Novelists can take from this process from the screenwriter and understand that long, ornate background descriptions, while seemingly wonderful literature, do not drive the story forward unless those descriptions are in some way part of the story. Here is a fifth characteristic. You must bring dialogue to life. In a screenplay, dialogue has to be witty, succinct, and bouncy. Dialogue in a screenplay is meant to be read aloud. The dialogue is meant to be acted. In a novel, well, not so much. There are writers whose novels are best read in silence and not meant to be read aloud. The language of the novel is so intertwined with the exposition that the reader or listener loses focus as to the story. A successful screenplay never loses focus of the main theme or the characters or the plot. One simply does not have the pages in which to indulge in expositional dialogue, or, for that matter, any boring dialogue. And who wants to watch conversation anyway? The thing a novelist can take from the screenwriter here is that a good novel, like a good screenplay, is something that can be told around a campfire and have everyone enjoy the story. And thank you for listening. Ideas. Where do you get them? And when you got them, what do you do with them? Well, Harlan Ellison, when asked the question of where did he get his ideas for his stories, he said he buys them from a secret place in upstate New York and he pays $10 for a dozen, but he's not going to tell you where. I think the short answer is that a screenplay, like a novel, like anything else, is not one idea. It is 10,000 ideas all flying in conspiracy. So let's talk about ideas. In my classes, I show people exercises of how they can work on their ideas, how they can exercise their minds, and all of those are proper tools. And I'll show you later in this video some of those tools that you can use to make your ideas work. But truly, where do ideas come from? Well, besides coming from in here, ideas come from everywhere. They come from other writers. Don't tell me you've never thought of a story that wasn't based on another writer's work. They come from history, as you can tell over here. These are the old Time Life series, nice bits of history before Wikipedia. They come from everywhere. They come from your life experience. They come from other people's life experience. They come from histories. They come from the ether. It doesn't matter. But you have to remember, as I said earlier, that any story is not one idea. You might have a central theme, but it's not one idea. It's 10,000 ideas all flying in conspiracy. Hi, and welcome to the Q&A portion of the Two Script Guys. So, today I've got a couple of questions that people have posed on the All Experts site, and I'd like to share them with you. The first question came from a writer who wanted to know could he sell a screenplay based solely on a log line and synopsis. And my reply was that for a new unrecognized screenwriter, writing just a log line and synopsis and selling those products as a complete screenplay would be like winning the lottery and breaking the bank in Las Vegas at the same time. Now, could William Goldman or Diablo Cody do that? Could they pitch a story and have the studio buy it right then? Yes, but they have Academy Awards sitting on their shelves. So, if you're thinking that if you're going to write a speculative screenplay and sell it as a logline and a synopsis, I would suspect that's not going to happen. As you cannot sell a new car based on the premise of a car, you cannot sell a screenplay based solely on a logline and synopsis. So the bottom line here is write a complete screenplay, then go back to your logline and synopsis and ensure that these devices match your completed screenplay. So the next question has to do with someone writing a story that begins with an old man having a nightmare in which he dreams of World War II battle, and then he sits up in bed screaming. And he wanted to know about formatting. Now, he wanted to know whether he should format it as a flashback, or is there a better way to format the scene? And my reply was that that flashbacks and dream sequences kind of are basically formatted the same. And so he could start out with external, Italian front, left parentheses, dream sequence, right parentheses, day, and end it with the sequence with another slug line. It's interior, bedroom, left parentheses, present day, right parentheses, night. Sam, George, wakes up in a sweat. So my further response to him was that if you want further detail, you need to refer to David Trottier's book, The Screenwriter's Bible. And that's the real answer. David Trottier's book, The Screenwriter's Bible, will answer all your formatting questions. So those are the two questions this week.
Techniques of idea development. One of the techniques is asking the questions. What is your story about? What genre is your story? What would an audience want to see? What is the main character, and what does that character want to achieve, and what is in opposition to it? Another technique is mind mapping. Mind mapping is using symbols and images and codes to outline your story and where you want to take it. I'll discuss that in more detail in later videos. The other technique is working backwards to go forwards. So you start with the ending. What does the main character discover that is the most painful, shocking, surprising, or delightful? What physical actions led the main character to that place? How did that main character's own actions create actions that made him search for that last clue? So, just remember that the stronger the idea means the stronger the unity, and therefore the stronger the story. Thanks.